What if All-Star 7, aka the Legendary Legend season, aka Drag Race Superstars, aka the All-Winner season, had eliminations? Well, it'd probably be way worse. We probably would have gotten a season like All-Stars 1 or UK versus the World, the first season being 6 episodes, like a weird test thing. But thank the drag gods that All-Star 7 introduced a new format where no one goes home. After watching the first 2 episodes, it was hard for me to even imagine any of these queens being in the bottom, so I continued to think about it more and more. Everyone either did so well or was just edited so positively that it didn't seem like anyone gave a bottom-worthy performance. But when there are tops, there are bottoms, and I will find them. Also, I don't want to be that person that tells you to subscribe, but if you like watching these videos that I make, subscribe please, I guess. Over 99% of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed, and I'm just like, damn. If this video hits 1K likes, I will do nothing but thank you. So first we need to figure out what kind of format this season would have had if it didn't introduce a new non-elimination format. I would assume we'd go back to the All-Stars 2 to 4 format or the UK versus the World format with 2 winners each week. This format makes the most sense to me because obviously they're not going to make it like a normal season, it's still All-Stars. I also don't see it being the lip sync assassin format for the winner season. If a non-winner came in and beat a winner in a lip sync, it would kind of defeat the purpose of it like being the all-winner season, which winner will come out on top. I think it's more interesting to see the winners lip sync against each other is what I'm trying to say. If they did have lip sync assassins, I hope it would be all different winners, but I don't even know if there's enough for them to do that. Well, there's enough winners. I don't know if there's enough winners that are lip sync assassins that aren't on this season though. I'm not going to go over the top 2 of each week that much because it's going to remain unchanged for both episodes. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with who was in the top 2, but I'm giving my opinion on what would have happened based on the judges' critiques, if that makes sense. Episode 1, I think Trinity would be the 3rd person in the top, aka high. It's pretty obvious that Trinity was the next person closest to being in the top 2. They absolutely loved her performance, even though she didn't know the words, which, I mean, she was selling it, but I'm glad that did keep her out of the top because that would have been crazy if she was in the top. Whether you liked her runway or not, or you thought it was too much or whatever, it was a spectacle to behold. Do I think it's fair that she's the 3rd person in the top? No, because she didn't know her words, but I do think that's who they would have put there based on their critiques. Jinx, Evie, and Jada all had great verses and looked good on the runway, so I would definitely put them as safe, which would unfortunately leave us with the bottom 2 of Raja and the Vivienne. Raja actually had my favorite look on the runway, but they never really count looks. I also really liked her verse, but her choreography was relatively simple compared to other people. The look Raja was wearing during the performance didn't really speak to her drag and wasn't as polished as she usually is, so they could have used that to justify her being in the bottom, like Joe Black in UK Season 2. The Vivienne was good. She arguably had the best vocals, but that's not really what we're judging on here. She kind of faded into the background in the song and on the runway. I mean, her look was really good, but there were so many good looks that it was hard to stand out. She sounded great on the song, but her verse didn't really tell us much about her or speak to her brand. It just kind of told us, you know, I'm from the UK. I'm on the winter season. If it was a normal All-Star season with eliminations, I could see Vivienne fading into the background and being nervous about being the only UK queen, being to her detriment. I could see it being a self-sabotage storyline like Silky had in All-Star 6, where she was just so in her head that she wasn't performing in the challenges to the best of her ability like on her previous season. But thank God we have a new format because seeing either of these queens leave first would have been horrible. So Shea would still win the lip sync to Old McDonald, and who would she choose to go home? I'm not going to speculate that much on it because it's really impossible to determine, but I would guess the Vivienne. I would guess Shea would eliminate the Vivienne purely because she has admiration for Raja. She watched her season and was inspired by her, and the Vivienne seemed kind of like an easy target for episode 1. I'm going to talk about each episode individually, so we're not going to pretend like the Vivienne isn't in episode 2 because I hypothetically said she would go home in episode 1. It just doesn't really make sense to me. Plus, we would like run out of queens before the end of the season. So for Snatch Game, obviously Raja is the 3rd top. She would be in my top 2, but she was not shown as much as the actual top 2. Maybe because she didn't have that many jokes, or because they didn't want her to seem better than one of the top 2 and seem robbed. Trinity and Jinx were amazing and deserved their spot. Honestly, it could have been a top 3. I mean, we've had quadruple wins, not a triple win. Obviously, Jinx had to win the Snatch Game. I mean, duh. And they could have leaned towards putting Trinity in the top over Raja to demonstrate what a successful block looks like in the show and kind of justify the new format and show that it actually works and has consequences. But that's kind of besides the point of this video. So my 4th favorite, or who I think would be the judges' 4th favorite, after the top 3 was Monet. Monet was completely in character for both of her Snatch games, and her Mike Tyson was so funny. So Monet is definitely safe. I would say the Vivian had one below average Snatch game and one pretty good Snatch game in a safe runway in comparison to the other queens. So I'd definitely put her as safe, which would leave us with a bottom 3 of Shea, Jada, and Evie. Evie did the worst of the 3, so she is automatically in the bottom 2. Her Rico Nasty was one note, and like she said in the workroom, she was just kind of yelling. Well, I assume she was referring to herself. The Boogeyman was a fun idea, and I liked it and where she was going with it, but I still think it could have gone further. So I really struggled deciding if I would put Shea or Jada in the bottom 2 with Evie. For me, Shea's characterizations were more accurate and technically better, whereas Jada had one character that wasn't funny with good characterization, and then her prince, which was hilarious. So I would put Jada as safe or low, safe, whatever you want to call it, because it's Snatch Game. At the end of the day, it's about being funny. She was giving characterization with Prince, even though it was weird, and her runway was just so good. So we have a bottom 2 of Evie and Shea. I definitely think Trinity would pick to send home Evie, because in this scenario, she wasn't blocked by Shea, and saving Shea this early would establish a sort of season 9 alliance, or like show Trinity's loyalty to Shea. I would assume Jinx would choose Evie because Shea has a better track record and that's playing fair or whatever, but we don't really know how Jinx would play a normal All-Stars game, so I honestly have no idea. But it doesn't matter, because this doesn't matter. This is strictly based on my opinion and extremely hypothetical. It really doesn't matter, and I'm so glad this isn't happening. But in an alternate reality where we got a season produced like All-Stars 1, like this weird test 6-episode bullshit, this could have happened. If you disagree with any of my placements or think something else would have happened, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to see what everyone thinks. Ciao.